for youth employment in agriculture. We were very strongly supported by FAO. And when we developed the strategy, we were lucky enough to try and disseminate as widely as possible. At least every district in this country got copies. And a number of our partners did get copies. It is not that we always develop a strategy or document and put it there. The difference here this time is we had partners who are performers, and we have been implementing this strategy. As we moved along, a number of other partners came on board. We had CURAD, APSI, and a number of others. Today, as we are talking, this particular strategy has seen the NDP 2 come to an end. We have entered into NDP 3 that will ensure that the strategy will be revised. The process will be on. Some of us here present will make sure you are part of the technical working group. But one most important thing that I always want to bring on board is the partnership. We need to coordinate ourselves. We need to work together to achieve a common goal. We have this one youth in front of all of us. There are quite a number of partners here present. And all these partners are struggling to ensure we involve this youth into agriculture activity. But how are we going to do that? That is where I come in, or where Ministry of Agriculture comes in strong. We need to coordinate ourselves. We need to coordinate the activities we undertake. If we are not coordinated, we are going to confuse this youth. Everybody will come and dump forward what he or she thinks is the right thing to be done. Quality assurance is lacking. Not only that, a number of activities has been going on. I know FAO worked with other partners to check and find out how many activities are being undertaken on youth. And they are quite big. It's a very big, long database. But many of the activities being undertaken are not recognized in the national agenda, because we just come in, undertake your activity, and that is it. You have spent a lot of money. Why don't you want your activity to be recognized in the national agenda? We can do that if we work closely with the government, because the government provides us guidance. And this time our guidance is the NDP 3. For us in agriculture, that's agro-industrialization. Strategically, the government has brought on board the parish development model to ensure that services are taken to the lowest level, and the lowest person there benefits from it. Whether we are complaining it's not achieving or whatever it is, we have just started, and I believe it will achieve. We will achieve, and it will succeed. Because we always need to plan positively and look at it positively. So whatever is gone wrong, if at all there's any, we have the time to correct it. But the most important thing is, this is the time when we want to see our services get to the lowest person down there. We want to see the youth at that lowest level benefit from the services that is being provided. And that is why we are here, to plan for that young person. My ministry's mission is to transform subsistence farming to commercial. And our vision is to ensure competitive, profitable, and sustainable agriculture. And I know that we can achieve it, especially through the parish development model that we are looking into. I know we can achieve that. And you'll agree with me also that these young people is a very heavy labor force. There are so many that you cannot afford to even turn aside without looking at the young people. So everything we are doing is got to be so focused and very directed to these young guys. As a sector, the ministry decided to come up with 6 priority areas that is to guide the different activities we undertake as we implement our agro-industrialization. I want to share the 6 areas with us. The first, we are looking at production, multiplication, certification, and distribution of seeds and stocking materials. The second, we are looking at disease control. And our third, we are looking at mechanization and irrigation. The fourth area, we look at farm education and mobilization. And the sixth looks at partnership. Partnership with bigger commercial farmers for production of strategic commodities to meet our national and international market. And the last one is a specialized intervention, or rather formative action, towards fisheries and aquaculture. So with this, if we focus our attention on the young people in these areas, I think we shall lift them up and be able to do a lot more. About 2 weeks ago, I participated in a beautiful function organized by Famnera. I didn't hear them here. I think they were not invited. It was a big one for the young people. And this was a function that took place in Africana. Like I told you, everybody is struggling to uplift the farmer. And they were promoting the young people who did well. I was very much amazed at those young boys and girls who benefited in that function. You see the creativity of the youth coming out in action. And those are the talents we need to tap into and strengthen those innovations that the young persons have. We can only achieve if we work together. We hold our hands together, identify these young persons and uplift them, build their capacity so that they can also influence others to join the path. With FAO, we had the Youth Championship Initiative, where Uganda was the first to initiate that, and it has been adopted in the whole of East African region. But I think if we come together with the others, we should be able to do a lot much better than we've done to date. And I know the people there young, the young people out need us. They need us, so we have to strategically adjust our focus and our attention and our plans to ensure that what we do will really benefit them. And we should be an example in the region. We should be an example in Africa. I know we can do it. Let me not talk too much. Let us listen to the presentations that will come by and make our input. The inputs we make, we should make them very deliberately and strategically so that we are able to implement those plans that we think are implementable. We shouldn't just do things for the sake of doing. Yesterday we had a meeting, it was on gender though, but the partners we were with, I was so grateful to the team. They said, government, for you, you are always good at writing. You write, and give us Bibles. Let us have very small books or strategies that can be implemented. And for us, we are willing to work with you. And that's what we want to hear here today, that we are willing to work together. Let's have actionable and implementable strategies. I want to appreciate all of us for being here. Thank you for leaving everything and coming to attend to the young people. It's a deliberation we are going to have throughout the day. And I appreciate each and every one of us here present. I say all this for God and my country. The workshop is officially open.
Thank you very much, Madam Connie, Commissioner, for blessing this event with very good background. So each one of us now knows where we've come from and want to appreciate you for the commitment. We've been told how the ministry has been busy since last week. And actually, up to yesterday, we were worried that your own strategy, which and the activity you have organized, we may need again to postpone to next week because of the commitments that you have been, other engagements that you had. But I want to assure you that Madam Connie was delegated to travel all the way to make sure that he leaves others in the field come and represent the ministry. So we want to appreciate you, Madam Connie, for the commitment. And also send our appreciation to the Permanent Secretary, that we don't take you for granted, much as this is your activity, but you had all the powers to say, push this activity to next week or the other week, so that we make sure that the ministry is well represented. So I want to thank you for the commitment and the discontinued collaboration with the other stakeholders now on board. So that said, I now want to make a presentation, and according to the program, as I mentioned, colleagues, is that today is not a day for speeches, but it is a day for really taking action in terms of really concretizing what we started in 2017, to ensure that we have really tangible documents that really are applicable. We don't want documents that we print and we keep. We have had a number of policy frameworks, like the Commissioner mentioned, that Uganda is good at making policies. But when it comes to implementation, it is our neighborhood that implements the policies that we developed. Or I was told that in one of the workshops that someone was opening a document from another country and that a paragraph was picked and they forgot to remove Uganda. So, so we are good at making policies, and government of Uganda, when we say government of Uganda, we're not saying the ministry as such, but saying all of us, because we are part of government. So Ugandans, we are good at making policies, but when it comes to implementation, we leave implementation to be done by the neighbors, which is not good. So we want now to say it's high time that we begin committing to what we develop in terms of implementing, so that we can cause impact. And the impact we are talking about is changing the lives of our communities, the lives of the Ugandan population. And our focus here are the young population, the young people. We actually want to make sure that we create the decent jobs that Madam Connie talked about, but at the same time, help them to earn an income so that they can have a decent livelihood. They can live means that really qualify to be human being wherever they are, in different parts of the country. And we are equal in the eyes of God. So if we are equal in the eyes of God, even in terms of our well-being, should be really well facilitated to ensure that what we do impacts, changes these communities, and the young people benefits from what we do. Not to sit in hotels like this one, we eat, we discuss, and the things we discuss end here. We want to go beyond the discussions of hotels and workshops, and then we begin impacting our population. So at this juncture, I am very sure, when I was guided by Ms. Ogwang, the stakeholders that participated, that have been invited in this workshop, are stakeholders who were guided by the ministry. And this time they want people who take action. That's why you see organizations like Sasagawa Global, who are good in post-harvest handling, insurance companies. We are seeing now Gore International. Avis is here, and I'm glad that actually Avis today came with the ministry. They didn't come alone. So I'm happy that Avis came with the ministry here to show the commitment they have in terms of taking action. And many others that I may not have mentioned. And I'm happy that the Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development is well represented today. And I want to appreciate you, because you can't talk about youth without talking about the Minister of Gender. I want to mention, before I make my presentation, that we have colleagues who are connected online. So we'll try to give an opportunity at some point for them maybe to react. So this being a virtual, a hybrid event, we'll have some kind of comments made by colleagues who are connected online. Some are FAO staff, others are stakeholders, actors who are part of this arrangement. So my duty today, I was guided to only make a presentation to give a background of the national strategy for youth employment in agriculture, specifically focusing on the action plan that has been developed and the database. And the reason being is that, and this is very important for us to know, and I'm happy that the ministry is listening, most especially the teams of Mr. Rufafa and others, that when the Ministry of Agriculture developed a national strategy, like any other document, we normally have a document with who is supposed to do what in terms of organizations. They say who is supposed to do civil society organization, private sector. And then the document is printed, copies are given to ministries and local government. Whether people implement what is in that policy document is no one's business. So the document is kept after 5 years. We say, by the way, there is a policy which was developed. Can we revise it? Yes, let's form a technical group. Can we have a workshop? We have regional consultations, and the story continues like that. So the ministry, in the wisdom of the ministry, in consultation with our FAO and other stakeholders who have been in this work, like us who have supported part of this work, we had to sit and say, how do we make this policy document actionable? Because even when the strategy was developed, people continued, whenever we would be in a meeting, people would say, we are not coordinated. We don't know who is doing what. I was conducting a training on business planning. The youth told me they had actually received the same training weeks ago. How can we coordinate, create synergies? So the same complaints continued even when we had a document, a strategy that should be guiding our operations. So the minister this time, I want to assure you that most of you who have been invited, I got names from MAIF. So because I wanted really to ensure, because I know, they know who is serious and who is active. Because you can't be implementing. If you are implementing an activity and you are not known by government, then you are not doing anything. Because there's no way you can impact communities down there and you are not known to the district production officer, you are not known to the community development officer, you are not known to the ministry. So where are you? So if your name wasn't given to us, then we know you are either not reporting, people don't know what you are doing, or you are not on the ground. And this is the very big challenge that we've been facing, that we have virtual activities. Things are happening in air and nothing is touching the ground. So without talking a lot of getting astray from the focus of the presentation, I just wanted to mention that the importance of developing an action plan is actually to help the coordination aspect. And I believe that we are going to take it up from here, and the commitment which I've seen already, because we said we report at 11:30, and everyone was almost here at 11:30, and we believe that this spirit is going to continue. So I want to say next. So in terms of the national strategy that was developed in 2017 by the Ministry of Agriculture with support from FAO, and the project that supported this is specifically the integrated country approach for promoting decent jobs. This was a project that supported the development of this strategy through MAIF. The strategy has 5 pillars, and I can see 2017, now it is how many years? 5 years or 6? 5 years. So the strategy is expired. So, and yesterday, when I was discussing with Ms. Ogwanga and Madam Koni, they actually indicated that they're already in ongoing discussions, and today we'll give them an opportunity to tell us what the next steps. They are planning actually to revise this strategy. And it's an opportunity for all of us, Raymond and the team who have been coordinating this youth activities. It's an opportunity for the young people now to reflect their voices in the new version of the strategy. The young people, their voices should be heard. When you are reading this strategy, you should be reading the minds of young people. So it's an opportunity when we give towards the end, on the next step, we would be glad and to appreciate that if you come in and see how the youth can be engaged in the revision of the strategy. So the old strategy, which we say now is ending, had 5 pillars. One is on strengthening the neighboring environment for youth employment, which is the policy support and other activities related to enabling the young people. And then we have support youth-oriented agriculture extension. And this component, this pillar, was actually anchored on what Madam Connie mentioned. When the ministry developed the National Agriculture Extension Policy, and they had a department, most of the activities were guided by the national strategy, activities under this pillar number 2. Because they wanted to see the role of young people in providing extension. What is the young people? What can the young people can do in the framework of the national strategy? I mean the national extension policy. And this component was reflected also in this strategy. Then number 3, improving youth education and learning. And then number 4, pillar number 4, supporting youth entrepreneurship. And then lastly, adaptation to and mitigation of agribusiness risks and uncertainties. And I'm glad that we have some insurance companies here. So after the strategy was developed and launched in 2017, we had several actors who initiated a number of activities connected to this strategy, including government and non-government actors. And I'm very sure that each one of us here, each one of us has been implementing activities related to this strategy. FAO supported MyYF specifically in terms of what we focused on, among other activities, was the implementation of the Youth Inspiring Youth Initiative. This one is a known. If you heard about youth champions, youth role models, that is what defines models, which is very great. And FAO also supported youth organizations like Uganda National Young Farmers Association. I don't know whether we have a representative here, but they were invited. And YouthChan, the Young Farmers Champions Network, they were also invited, and I talked to them yesterday. I don't know whether we have a representative here. To be empowered as agents of change and to participate in policy dialogues and to contribute to the national strategy, the implementation of the national strategy. We actually wanted the young people to be part of this arrangement. And I'm glad that even if the 2 organizations, whether they are here or not, but we have other youth organizations who are forwarded by the ministry who are represented here. And moving forward, I think we believe that you'll be able to support the processes and the next steps that we are going to discuss today. So the youth, as you know, youth in agriculture considerations are mainstreamed in the 4 additional national strategies and policies, and this we supported. The NDP3, if you look at the NDP3 now, for those who have been keen, it's the youth aspect, youth empowerment is very strong, because actually under the integrated country approach, we actually supported National Planning Authority to conduct consultations to ensure that the role of youth in terms of shaping the country's development is well articulated. Then we also had support to the National Fisheries Policy, which was also passed. And as you know, there are many young people engaged in fisheries and aquaculture activities. So among other policy documents that we supported. So in addition, FAO, in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture, we put in place an active technical working group as an example of an effective youth inclusive multi-stakeholders collaboration that has guided concrete actions and partnerships. And we had members here who have been active, and we believe that more members are going to come. We can even reshape, because now the project ended, or it is ending, and we are working as FAO as such, much as the integrated country approach has been giving support from headquarter level. But in terms of the country, we don't have like a youth-focused project. So what we do is the collaboration as FAO. We've been continuously collaborating with organizations as FAO, not as a project. And most stakeholders, MyYF, Ministry of Gender, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, individual youth entrepreneurs and organizations like YouthChan and UNFA, private sector foundation, among others, including Churad, which I'm seeing here, have been active in terms of continuous discussion on the way forward. Because that's what is important now. We have also enhanced the capacity of young people in productive and decent work principles trainings like agribusiness, entrepreneurship skills, among others. And we have also helped young people to access finance by collaborating with financial institutions like Uganda Development Bank. The database now, a database of over 800 youth entrepreneurs has been created, because one of the challenges that we used to face is that people used to say, we don't have young people in agribusiness. If there is a young person who is doing sensible agriculture, if I reach down and I'm looking for in the district and I'm looking for a youth who is doing agribusiness, can I find them? So we had to begin mapping these young people, and we have a database and in different regions. So we have a database of 800 youth entrepreneurs with their contacts. So if you want to intervene or see, you can actually approach us. Any region, you say, I want to see young people in this value chain. We have some of that information. So despite all these interventions and activities that we supported, among others, I just listed a few. One of the challenges that continued, there was a challenge of persistent coordination. Whenever we go in the meeting, wherever we are, you go to the district, you find that people are still duplicating, people don't know who is doing what. So that remained a big challenge, and I want to say that this is witnessed by all of us. If I asked any one of us, you'd say that one of the challenges is we are actually not talking to each other. And I think Raymond and the team, this is what you're also trying to do to ensure that we coordinate better. So several partners and actors implementing activities that contribute to the national strategy are not well monitored, are not coordinated, a situation that results into duplication of efforts and resource wastage. Next. So, as you know, we had to begin working now to ensure that we improve on the coordination. Now, in 2020, we had the restructuring of the M&E system, and we started by conducting a baseline mapping of the strategy. So we identified key initiatives we worked with two organizations, the Uganda Farmers Federation. I don't know whether we have the Uganda Farmers Federation representative. Yes, Madam Prudence is here. And we had also two youth organizations to participate in it. So we did a baseline mapping to know what are the major initiatives we have in this country and who is doing what, where are they. So we did a baseline mapping, and based on that, we used the information to put in place an action plan. We revised the action plan, the M&A framework that was in the strategy. So we revised it so that we put in place an action plan. So youth organizations, as I've already mentioned, were actively engaged in this process. So in terms of the next steps, we really needed to define a clear institutional mechanism for M&E to guarantee accountability, because we realized that this is very important. So what we have done is, I don't know whether NSYEA is here. Do you have someone from NSYEA? Yes, we have Jared, the team, yes, the CEO. I don't know if there is anyone who does the NSYEA in this country now. Is there anyone who does the NSYEA? If you don't know NSYEA, then you go to Google, Mr. Google. But I can assure you, those are, and this is very serious. If you find young people doing serious stuff, these are people who are very young, an age between 20 and 35. And they are doing things which are supposed to be done by our seniors. If we have to change our country, young people are the ones now spearheading this process of transforming their country. So I want to appreciate you, NSYEA, for the wonderful work. So NSYEA has worked with us, and the Uganda Farmers Federation want to appreciate you. CURAD, and they actually identified 60 enumerators to put in place a database, an online database, an ICT facilitated database. They will be able to elaborate that because they have the experts in that. So they also conducted the key, they conducted surveys. Over 40 main interventions were identified, and 239 youth groups were interviewed. We had 225 individual youth entrepreneurs interviewed, and district staff and national stakeholders in ministries, MDAs, were also interviewed as key informants in this process of identifying the key interventions, but also the key challenges and opportunities that are available that guided the monitoring, the database, the establishment of the database. So the objective of putting in place a monitoring database was to visualize the 2019-2020 baseline mapping of the initiatives that were done. So to say, of these 40 initiatives, how are they scattered? Where are they? We have this in this country, in this region, this in this district, this in these streets. And then also to map enterprises, cooperatives, youth organizations, and youth entrepreneurs who are engaged in agriculture. So in addition to the major 40 initiatives, when we say youth initiatives, it's like you are talking about the major. If you go to the area and ask what is the major youth initiative in this area, they will tell you. So in addition to the 40 major initiatives, they also mapped individual youth entrepreneurs who are in agriculture, cooperatives, youth cooperatives in all these districts in the country. Next. So the key features of this monitoring database, it has a data dashboard and the visualizations, and the visuals are publicly accessible to enhance awareness of the strategy and to harmonize activities related to the strategy. It has a user manual which you can use to run through use the database with some kind of guidelines. So it has also some figures which you can see if you manipulate it. I know Gerard and the team will be able to elaborate that during their presentation. But also during the database development, there are challenges which were faced. Some of the data was not able to, and I'm glad that most of the initiatives are here. Some of the challenges that were faced was they were not able to get some information related to budgets. Like one of the major initiatives, they wouldn't tell you how much they have invested or how much they have, because they didn't want to open it, tell the interviewers what they have. So in terms of moving forward, we believe that if we begin working together, we can be able to open and now share some of this information. Because if we are to have a database of who is doing what and where, how much money you have invested, how are you changing communities, how many jobs that you are creating, how are you changing in terms of impacting to create incomes of these young people or to create businesses. All these things that you have to reveal, there's some kind of budget implication. And if you don't say this amount of money that I'm investing, and this is the return in terms of the jobs, it becomes a challenge because we say impact in terms of jobs, but if we ask how much money, because someone will create 20 jobs with a lot of money, and then another person will invest very little money and create the same job. So we want to see who is investing more and creating less, and then maybe it can guide on how stakeholders can improve. So it's not about we call it what? In our local languages? Whipping. But monitoring is for the good. Eh? Initially, M&E would be looked at as people who want to get faults, So these are people who have failures or no. This M&E arrangement, the database which is being put and what we are trying to do is actually to ensure that stakeholders learn, it's a learning process, and then see how they can improve. So indications from the database for the NSYEA, in terms of geographic concentration of the major interventions, we had Eastern Uganda, we had 41% was in Eastern Uganda, 28% the major interventions were in southwestern Uganda, and 19 were in the Midwest. Less interventions were in Central and Western Nile. We need to begin thinking about why the major interventions are not in those areas. But this was a study done, so information was collected. Most common types of the support offered were technical, agricultural production skills, agriculture enterprises, entrepreneurship skills, so at 13 and 11% respectively. So in terms of recommendation, there's a need to boost efforts also in Central and North and Western Nile regions in relation to priority commodities produced in these areas. So that was just a recommendation. Next. So I was just giving a background that to enhance coordination and the efforts to ensure that we know who is doing what, an action plan has been developed. And this action plan shows us who is doing what and where. But in addition, that information has been entered into a database. and this is an ICT, but we don't want to concentrate on the quality and the extent of the information because it is still lacking. It's a continuous discussion which we need to shape, even in the new strategy which is going to be revised by the ministry. But I think what is important is to see how the database, the ICT database was set up in terms of the structure, whether some components were missing, how it needs to be improved, and how stakeholders can take it up and work with the ministry and other stakeholders to ensure that it becomes, it is usable, it is utilized. Now, the action plan and the M&E framework for the strategy, as I've already indicated, we had the strategy in 2017 that was launched by the ministry. And 3 years after the adoption of the strategy, stakeholders actually realized the need to enhance its monitoring. In 2020, a technical working group was established, which was aimed at to develop this action plan and to monitor the aspects of the strategy. So the major objectives, the general objective of the action plan and the M&E is actually to support my youth, the youth, and other stakeholders involved in the implementation of the thematic areas of the national strategy, which I mentioned, the 5 thematic areas, to track the implementation of progress and adopt a more coordinated approach for implementation. Specifically, this action plan is aimed at enhancing coordination mechanism, but also to provide an enhanced monitoring and evaluation framework for the strategy. And lastly, to boost implementation and close gaps during the last 2 years of the implementation of the strategy. Next. So the action plan indicates the key actions that need to be prioritized to achieve the goals and objectives of the strategy. It is intended to cover the last year of the original strategy of 2022. 2022 is last year. As this year, yes, we're in 2020. Yes. So so we are looking at what happens between now and backwards, as well as bringing the year 2020 next. So we want to see what has happened from where we are backwards, but also moving forward, which should be dedicated to the formulation of the new strategy. And as I indicated when you had just started, is that the ministry has indicated that they are going to revise the national strategy. And I'm glad that Madam Farida from GEND is here. When the Minister of Agriculture will be discussing on the way forward on how to revise the new strategy, the 2 ministries will be working together to ensure that the new strategy is well coordinated in terms of the support from the 2 ministries. So the M&E framework builds on the original M&E framework, which was put in the strategy. At the back of the old strategy of 2017, there was an M&E framework. But then that framework had many indicators. So in this time, we have revised the indicators from 74 to 23 to ease monitoring, because it was very difficult to monitor and report on 74 indicators. As we have already indicated from the beginning, that MAIF has the main responsibility for reporting on the strategy and also on the coordination mechanism. But we indicate that in collaboration with the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, because you can't talk about youth, whether they're in agriculture, without talking about gender. Next. In 2022, which is this year, using the existing National Strategy Baseline Survey tool and database, a short survey for the new main interventions emerged. And we followed up with the major 40 main interventions, and we mapped them. A short survey with youth entrepreneurs and the youth groups were mapped, and we actually put these documents together. Outside the national, the baseline mapping and the database, we actually also, there was correction of information that still missed, because we realized that some of the indicators lacked information. And we are continuously trying to continue getting information related to budgets, because most of the stakeholders were not willing to reveal information related to budgets. But also correction of information from specific sources. And then we also did some focus group discussions with the help of the 2 organizations. But we want to say that beyond 2020, we want to have annual updates and eventual improvement of the monitoring of database, of the NSYEA database. And we think that we can only do this if we do it as a team. I want to use the Word document because I put one, this just to show how it is, but we'll be able to use the Word document because this is going to be a technical working group kind of to review and give comments. But what I wanted to say is that an assessment of the delivery of the NSYEA between 2017 and 2020 from the baseline mapping that was done that was supported by Uganda Farmers Federation, we have a review of some information. And so they reviewed available publications, reports, they went to websites and got information. That is the UNFE. So the assessment of the delivery of 2017 gave us a summary of this. This was a summary of what has happened until 2020 when Uganda Farmers Federation did this. So, and we categorized the progress in terms of the indicators this side, the colors. The traffic lights indicating overall assessment of the status of the strategy. Whereas we have low, which requires urgent action needed, it was flagged red. Whenever you have something that is very low, it would be red. Progress when the intervention is progressing well but needs improvement, we have some yellow and adequate light green. X, when there is some good progress on some of the indicators, would have green if it is excellent. So progress report for the NSYEA under thematic number 1, like I indicated to you, that the interventions which are under each of the thematic area, we would monitor activities. When you open the national strategy, under each of the thematic area, you have a strategic area or a strategy, like strategy 1.1, and then you have activities outlined like these ones I've mentioned. Now we would monitor to see how stakeholders have implemented these activities, the progress in all the impact, and we use the qualitative aspects because some of the information wouldn't easily get quantitative figures. So we would use a qualitative reflection of the picture to show whether it is actually there's some progress or there's need for improvement. So I'm just going to identify one before I invite Mr. Apollo Segawa, whom we worked with also from Churad, because we use the organizations to do to participate, like you are going to begin participating in this. So what we did, for instance, under priority action for strategy 1.1, which is the activity A, there was need to, this is under policy, strengthening policy and legal framework. Lobby government and policy makers for legal provisions that recognize the 14 to 17-year-olds. This is one of the activities because during the formulation of the strategy, it was identified that young people who are aged between 14 and 17 were not being catered for by most of the interventions. That most interventions, whether government or private, target 18 and 30 years, or 18 and above, sometimes 35. But they leave out the working age group of 14 to 17. So that's the reason why they have this activity. We however, found that there was some progress done to improve because the Ministry of Gender started considering this, and I believe that Madam Farid and others, Friday and others will be able to comment on this. There was some work done by Ministry of Gender and other stakeholders to improve this aspect. Before, people are not talking about this category, and they had left it. But now Ministry of Gender and other stakeholders started doing some work. So they gave it a score of 2, and it is qualified to be yellow, that there's some progress, but still we need to do something. I was just giving an example on how this qualitative monitoring was captured. And then an activity, for instance, on promote awareness initiatives about youth, enabling laws, procedures, rights, programs, and obligations, and remedies. Support dissemination of the NSYEA and youth. For instance, on support of dissemination of the strategy and youth programs, it was given actually light green or green, actually light green, that it is adequate, that people know the strategy. If you ask about the national strategy for youth employment in agriculture, people know it. And if you ask about youth programs in this country, They will say there is youth livelihood program. People know these programs. So in terms of government and stakeholders disseminating information on the existing programs and government policies, people know. When you ask them, they will tell you whether they are participating or not, or whether they are causing impact or not. People know that they are these programs. So I was just telling you that some, when you see green, you will know what it means. And when you see yellow, you know what it means. And red, that one is a red flag. I can mention one. There was a need, for instance, to lobby for provision of youth agribusiness tax incentives. It indicated red, that young people are not being prioritized, they are not supported in terms of being able to be enabled to trade and compete, because young people are still staggering. They don't have a support system. So if you tax them the same way as people who are old, they have property, they have land, the young person is renting land, is hiring someone's land to do something, you tax him the same way. So these are some of the activities which indicated. Build the capacity of my youth to mainstream youth issues in their programs and partnerships, including the 14 to 17. With the Ministry of Agriculture, the 14 to 17 was indicated that there's a big gap in terms of how they consider the program for this category. So there was red. So I'll just give you an example that some of the activities which were put under each of the strategic area, we are lacking, others need support, there's some progress on others. This was just an example. I just projected thematic area number 1 on enabling environment. But even others, as you move through, I shared already the action plan. As you move through, you'll see how the qualitative scoring was done. Next. So, I want to mention the benefits of the web-based database and the action plan. As I indicated to you, that these two frameworks will adopt a more coordinated approach during the implementation of the strategy, specifically strengthen the existing government coordination mechanism. We will establish key active actors who are engaged in the implementation of the interventions related to youth, but also guide the government to establish proper contribution, to establish the contribution of private sector and NGOs to the implementation of the strategy. Sometimes when we're in meetings, we tend to say government has not implemented. Actually, even now, we say government, when we're talking, we say government has not implemented. Government has not done this. But as I indicated to you from the beginning, that the government puts in place a framework to guide the operations of government, but also the private sector. But now it will be an opportunity now government to begin establishing what we have done as private sector, NGOs, development partners. This M&E arrangement framework will be able to guide who is doing what and where, what they have done, how they have impacted. And the government will be proud of you, because some of us are doing great work out there. But no one knows. Like for instance, if you went to any ministry and ask a minister of gender, you ask, what has FAO done? What has GORO done? What has AFSA done? Can government tell you quantitatively? And say, by the way, GORO or FAO or AFSA or this organization, they have done this in these areas. These are the jobs they have created. Is there an arrangement that captures this kind of this is what was lacking. And we think government will use it next time. They will also not complain that private sector development partners are blaming government, but when they have all this information now, they will be able to report and say, by the way, we have stakeholders who are contributing to the development of this country. But also guide the government to plan better its investments to the implementation of this strategy. So we know that now, based on this M&E framework and the database, the action plan will help government now to begin reflecting on where the gaps are. Like I indicated, where there's red, government will begin looking at when they are planning for their projects and programs. Government can say, by the way, there is green here. We have done something here. Can we put more resources where there is red? So they begin prioritizing their interventions. But also would help in tracking progress of the what? Of the strategy moving forward. And will boost implementation and close gaps by establishing the areas of the NSYEA that are lacking support or less implemented. I've already mentioned the same. Next. So I want to stop here. I was just giving a background to open our discussion because Mr. Aporosega is going to continue from where I've stopped. And we'll be alternating with the Aporo, Mr. Aporo. You'll be presenting, he invites me. Because the action plan we want to project is for us to give our views, give our perceptions. So before the ministry takes it up, moving forward, even in terms of revising the new strategy, we'll be able to do what? We'll be able to give our input at this time. So there are a number of links which I'm sharing. For instance, the National Strategy Monitoring Database is there. I can share with you the links because you will not be able to get it here. But also we have our project called the ECAP project, Integrated Counter Approach, which was supporting most of this work. We have a website where you can click and find most of this information. And we have some brochure which you can also refer to. I will share with you these links because here you cannot pick them. So I wanted to request, if it is fine, before I invite APRO and NSYEA, because at some point, I'm going to request our ICT support team to project the program, and then we see who is next, who is coming next. But before I invite maybe APRO, according to the agenda, it is APRO. So I wanted to invite, if it is fine, to invite people to give comments. If you have any comment, if you have any compliment, any suggestions before, or you want us to invite APRO, he presents, and once we are done, then we have comments together. We want to make it a free environment. You are very free to guide. For those who have just come, we appreciate that your presence. We recognize you. We'll give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. But if it's fine with all of us, I want to take this opportunity then to request you to allow me to sit, and I invite for Mr. APRO Segawa. So according to the program, it is Mr. APRO Segawa supposed to continue with what I've presented moving forward. And this time, we wanted to suggest that we use, the PowerPoint is disorganizing because of red, we'll use because these tables are long, cutting them, we realize we'll have 100 slides and you'll get bored with my phenotype. So we are suggesting that I sit, we invite APRO, he runs us through the Word document, you look at word by word. If you need the refreshment, there's some tea, please. We are going to have, please, if you come, my brothers and sisters, we are going to have late lunch. So don't wait because you think lunch is about, because we are tuned to 1 being lunch, 1 p.m. So so you can be having a working tea because our lunch might come a little bit late. So, yes, you have any comment for now before Mr. Segawa connects, please raise it. Free environment. I have colleagues who are capturing most of this information. They are taking notes. We have Mr. Bosco from the Africa Agribusiness Incubation Network. Actually, he requested me that he's going to take, you can see the commitment of stakeholders. When he came, he said, what should we have? And he started taking notes. So, and if I will work with him when I sit, but he's taking notes. If you have any question, any guidance, suggestion, please, over to everyone. We begin from him. She came first. I will give her an opportunity. I come to you. Do you have any other person this side? No. And share the COVID.
Thank you so much. This has been very elaborate. Once again, my name is Irene. And my quick observation from what you are presenting, I was just wondering why it's been reflected that the young people between 14 and 17 are not coming out well, especially interventions to do with agriculture. As I was trying to find out whether when you are doing this survey, you didn't factor in the fact that actually youth start from 15 years of age. So what we do as most organizations, since we look at 15 years as the age that comprises youth, we even take it lower to capture those at 14 to be able to benefit from these interventions, so that we prepare them for this youth docket and what is coming ahead, so that we don't find them missing out, and at the same time align this to the Employment Act that talks about the working age starting from 16 years of age. So why would we have young people below 17 not being reflected or coming out well in some of these interventions? It's something that is very key, and I want us to really put emphasis on this, because we have seen young people taking the direction into vocational training, of which much of their interest is into agriculture. So it's important for us to take this at the forefront so that they really fit into all these policy amendments and interventions. Thank you.
For another person, let's clarify this, because this is a very important aspect, and I'm very sure Raymond wanted to. I want to invite Minister of Gender. Can I beg your pardon on the question? Because you are saying the working age is 16, and I wanted to think that it is 14, but we have the experts here. Yes. Yes. Have you understood the question? Or the principles, but not the question. you see why I'm not worried. Eh? The reason why I'm not worried, we have people who have framed all these policies. The Employment Act, the Employment Policy, the custodian is her actually. So that's why I'm not worried. So she would be able to answer. But she has said she has understood the principle, but the question, so you need to clarify in the question. One last more time. I will not give you the third time. Just to clarify, what is the question? Yes. No, not by law. By programs. Yes. Not for my youth, that programs generally don't cater for that category. Yes. Yes. So they are catered for. Yes. Okay. Very good. Very good. Very good. Thank you. That's a very good question. That the laws and policies cater for this category, but now why are we advocating for it? The issue is, before I invite Friday and the rest, is that the programs, much as we have them in the policies and laws, when it comes to implementation, they are not catered for. That's the problem. That's why we say we have good laws, policies in Uganda. When it comes to implementation, zero. Not zero as such, but a gap. So we are saying that the issue is that we agree with you, by the way. We hadn't understood. The issue is that you are very right. They are catered for in the policies, in the legal framework. But when it comes to programs, like, let me ask our colleagues here. Everyone is implementing a youth program. Who is implementing a youth program with a category of 14 and 15? Just raise your hand. To be sincere. 14 to 17 in agriculture. We are talking about agriculture. Now you see the hands. and you see, there are few. Of course, we are around this 50 or whatever, the number, I don't know. But I mean, you'll find that 2 organizations are observing that. That's why we are saying that there is a need for more what? And if people are interviewing, landed on people who don't have any program, they will not see, because there are few interventions that are doing that. So, but I will give an opportunity to our colleagues from Ministry of Gender to add maybe one or two. They could be having another perspective. They are the experts. Right.
Okay, thank you, Edward and Irene. Really, I do not have any issue that is different from what Irene has submitted. The legal framework is very clear. The youth policy, actually, when we were consulting to come up with the national youth policy, we realized that that category of young people 15 to 18 were left out really in most of the interventions by organizations and stakeholders for the young people. So we deliberately lowered the age from 18 to 15 to cater for that gap. And then we have been advocating for mainstreaming. So maybe, Edward, here what we should be talking about is for us to have deliberate effort to include that category of young people, since they are left out. They are provided for, but it's like we as partners, we have not realized the need to deliberately include them. So for me, it's about advocating for mainstreaming and also for inclusion of that kind of category that is being left out. Thank you.
Very much.
Edward, I think you said it in the beginning that we are doing different things. And the reason, Irene, I think why they found what they found on the ground is because people are different and approaching programs differently. And I think, like Maif said, that's the reason why we're here. to see how we can harmonize. So the different approaches, I think, has brought out the anomaly that we've noted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mine is not relating to what they are discussing, but I'm happy that they are thinking about the young people. I'm very passionate when it comes to young people, but also we usually say of recent that nothing for us without us. So if you want us to achieve, if you want everything to move on, ensure that the young people are given voices to speak. But I'm also happy that in this building, when I had people introducing themselves, I kept hearing, okay, they are working with different organizations, they are representing organizations. But what about that youth himself or herself? Because in most cases, when people come to represent, some, they don't give back this feedback. But then also when we come in such forums, when we talk in this perspective, we are thinking for the young people. How sure are we that what we are thinking is what the young person from Butambala, Gomba, is thinking? So my request would be, when we are having such opportunities, let us have the young people. And when we're talking about the young people, not only the 30 years, and we have the senior and the, let me say like that. Myself, I'm a senior adolescent, but at least they are those people who really need in this. Then I have a concern. I'm happy about the presentation. But when we are talking about these things, I saw a category of the people with disabilities not being mentioned in this framework, let me say, or the national strategy. Yet we also believe that the young people, the youth, regardless of their setup in terms of disability, because we also know disability is not inability. I may be having an impairment, maybe I'm lame, maybe I'm not hearing very well, but I can dig, but I can do some work. So how can we ensure that people with disabilities, people who are maybe in the commercial sector, people who are doing other things that are not specifically what we may think, are also included? So the point is, as we are doing this thing, let us also be inclusive regardless of our status. Then also there is I was discussing with Mama here about when we talk about this agri-enterprise, are we only relating to agriculture in form of crops, let me say, and most, or we are also talking about other related business ventures? Then also there is something of the database. I was happy about when I was reading through the email when they were inviting us. I was, okay, there's this database. But in most cases, we get opportunities to get this information. But the young people, because we know young people in the districts where we operate, now like the organization I work for, we are in over 30 districts. But you find that we are having young people who are also doing some work related with agriculture. But how can we help them so that they are included in that database, so that in case there is hope, because I've been hearing some of the organizations that are being supported to do trainings, to do what? How can other youth organizations be supported to be part of this so that they can be able to? Because in most cases, when we have opportunities as youth-led organizations, we know ourselves, we can connect, we can link. So if you get an opportunity that there is this opportunity, we can connect to other young people, but also we make sure that even if you invite me to represent my organization, I'll feel more comfortable if I have a young person, a youth himself who will present, other than me as a leader, presenting his issues on his behalf. Thank you.
Yeah. Now you are seeing what we mean by youth. When you say youth, the energy. And by the way, we specifically invited you because we knew you were youth. And number two, you are not only a youth, but a youth who is a lady. They are the peculiar attributes. A girl child, not even because this is not a child. This is not a baby. She's calling herself a senior youth. She's a senior adolescent. Yes, but before I invite colleagues, can we respond to her? Because when a youth raises issues, if you don't respond, you dilute their submissions. And their submissions are very important. Now, I will respond to some and invite Madam Connie to respond to others because they are the custodian of this strategy. First of all, did you talk about disabled people because I'm disabled? Or? Oh, okay. Okay. Yes. No. It is very important. Let me tell you guys, colleagues, I'm sorry to say guys, before you get a problem, you don't know the importance of considering these categories. You see, before you got an accident, some of you know. it was very easy for me to maneuver and move in these buildings. I used not to think through these places where they got ramps for disabled people. But when I got an accident and they started pushing me on a wheelchair, that's when I knew the importance of considering certain categories. So sometimes when it has not happened to you, please forgive these people who have forgotten about poverty. Let me tell you, someone who has not been buying fuel for like 30 to 40 years, doesn't know where the market for buying food is, and for 40 years, he will forget. So when he talks, that's why we say we are all leaders now, managers. At this juncture, we know. When those people talk, please begin thinking through. Go beyond. Don't bring the anger and begin thinking about putting yourself in the shoe of that person and say, if I were that person, 40 years, I don't know where they buy food. I don't know how fuel is, the prices of fuel. When it is 7,000, you don't know whether there is fuel. Someone parks don't even buy how they card to buy fuel. Do you know there are people who have forgotten that there is hunger? Do you know that? You see, there are people, they don't know, they actually, when you read, let me tell you, when you read what was happening a few months ago in Karamoja, you read and you say, it can be like a movie for those people who have not experienced that. Do you know people watch movies and they think, even if they see the real thing, they think it's a movie. Either there is something happening, they don't even understand this. So please forgive. So before I got an accident, and I'm raising this issue because of this youth, we actually consider an activity on supporting the disabled. You will see when Mr. Apollo's project, one of our activities there. And actually, I remember Madam Kona and others fighting a lot to consider to make sure that it is really, people with disability in agriculture have to be supported. People with this in agriculture, because agriculture needs labor, it is intense. Now, if it is intense, with our rudimentary methods of farming now, we don't have mechanization. At least if there is mechanization, a person with disability can use the machines, touch here, buttons here, and things move. But where you have to use a hand hoe, and you're on a wheelchair, how do you manage? So we made sure that there are specific interventions that target the disabled. So it was considered. You will see that aspect. But also, there are other cohorts. And I think Madam Kona and the colleagues in the ministry, as you revise this strategy, there are categories of our communities that we need to consider. They call it the minorities, minority groups, like the Batwa. I'm sorry to mention, but that's how they call them. The Batwa and which other category? The IK. Actually, we need to begin thinking about in the new strategy and the albinos. So colleagues from the ministry, Mr. Rufafa, Madam Koni, in terms of when we are revising the strategy, this category of the minorities, and I'm happy, Mr. Bosco, you are recording this, because this is going to be minuted and shared with the ministry. Aspects related to young women, the youth who are women. You can be a youth, but a woman who is a youth. When I was conducting some interviews in Eastern Uganda, and we would ask whether young people, the challenge is faced by young people and women in Eastern Uganda when they are doing farming. It was unfortunate that most of the people we were interviewing, we thought they were women, but these were young mothers. Someone who is 19, 20 years. They were 19, 20 years with children. So yet we are looking for young, we are asking women, thinking that they are women, so that they tell us about what is happening to youth. Yet they were youth themselves. So they were young people. So peculiar challenges that are faced by women. So in terms of interventions, again, the new strategy should really emphasize that. Now, you are asking about agripreneurs, whether we are talking about agripreneurs who are in livestock, crop, or what? In what? Any other. Yes. We are looking at all these. That's why some of the interventions are even in terms of the support systems, like extension, and so even those youth who are in ICT, we are considered ICT, those who are providing inputs. So it's not only those who are in the key nodes of the value chain, production, marketing, validation, no, but even those who are providing services. Now, moving forward, the new strategy, and I already discussed with Ms. Ogwang and Madam Koni, the new strategy is going to look at agri-food system. Now, it even goes beyond agribusiness, but it looks at the food system. including aspects related to safety. Food safety is now important. You can do all these things and add value, but the food you are putting on the table is not safe for a human being. So now we are going to look at those who are engaged in youth who are engaged in agri-food system. So agri-food system, including even when food has reached, even in terms of food preparation, aspects related to hygiene, standards. So all those aspects. So yes, again, to answer the youth, that's what we want to consider. Madam Kon, you have something to add?
I think one of the issues you brought out was, is it agro-industrialization? Hello, ma'am. Thank you. You are talking of agro-industrialization, whether it was only crop and livestock. But when we talk agro-industrialization, we are looking at agriculture across the value chain. And agriculture is crop, livestock, fish, entomology, apiary, all of them put together, as the ministry is agriculture, animal industry, and fisheries. So we look at it wholesomely, but along the value chain, we don't leave out that bit of the value chain. So there's processing and all that, but we stop at primary processing. We don't go beyond that. When it comes to secondary processing, that now goes to trade. That's why we have to work in a program approach, because trade cannot work without us. We need each other. We need to move together. And on the disability of the young people, I don't need to elaborate on that. We cannot do without them. We need to take care of everybody. So the sector looks at everyone. But the only thing we need to focus on, maybe as we look at the revision of the strategy, are the specific interventions that are tailored towards the particular disability that we are going to look at. Yes. What else? Did I leave out anything? Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, since I was the second to raise the hand and the lady raised the hand, I agree that we should consider him here. He was glad to delegate a youth who is in charge of youth activities. So that's why I'm here. Since she spoke, so when ladies speak, you find solutions to challenges. So that's why I will forget the question and find a challenge to one of the things you mentioned. You mentioned something to do with coordination. You find, if not mistaken, almost all of us have a project to do with youth. And unfortunately, he had a training on business planning, but a week before, the same group of youth had the same thing. So for us at Uganda Agribusiness Alliance, we believe there is nothing a candle loses by lighting another candle. So I'm suggesting of an idea. How about we create something like a multi-stakeholder platform? I understand there is a technical working group. A multi-stakeholder platform which brings all of us now. Not only us, the organizations, but also youth who are not part of this, the entrepreneurs and other key stakeholders. I'm glad the government is already on board. So when we bring all of us, the actors, together, it's a good thing that we can frequently share what we are doing, which activities we are involved in, and in case we find there is an area that we can equally work together. For example, if you're to train people about maybe beekeeping, bee production, and I'm also doing the same thing, what do I lose by us combining efforts? Instead of training 5 youth, we train 10 youth and more intensively, and we save also resources. So that's what I'm raising. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon to you all. Maybe I can introduce myself. Sorry for coming in late. My name is Albert Nagawa. I work for Plan International Uganda as a project manager. My concern, just wanted you to clarify. You talked about the was sort of like a recommendation that you would recommend that the product produced by the youth in agriculture, if possible, they shouldn't be taxed. So my concern is that won't it cause more trouble to the government if other groups of people who are in agriculture, like women and people living with demanding the same tax waiver or tax audit. So how are you going to harmonize that so that it does not cause confusion or demand from other categories?
Yeah.
Yeah. Raymond can answer mine maybe.
Yeah, thank you very much. Once again, good afternoon. I'm happy to be part of this. And I'm happy that the teams have been brought here. Some of us who have pushed for this 6 years ago, we are seeing this one come up, and I'm happy for that. I'm interested in the information you gave us here, and an element which is very key that we thought one of our partners you put there, whom is your partner, Excel Hot Concert. 6 years ago, we discussed about community youth systems, supporting youth agribusiness, community systems. And I didn't see it reflected in here because we believe that for sustainable youth agribusiness and enterprise, the system should be supporting them at the community level. And I have seen it in the PDM. I'm going to look at data, parish-based data systems, and which information systems as part of PDM and processes. So from your assessment here, I didn't hear much about the community support systems for these youth to operate. I think that's one of the challenges we face, is ensuring that the youth products are supported at the grassroots, for them to avail market, for them to have provide value chain, value addition, and connection at the system level. So I wanted to hear more about how to strengthen the community systems, especially for food security, support the youth to operate. The other one, I was happy that I've seen a red flag in one of the areas you mentioned, and it was about revitalizing the National Youth Forum. That is one of the things we posted about 6 years ago with the Minister of, with Maïv. We are saying, wait a minute, how do we learn from these partners doing a lot? We, Gold, Chirad and Sakawa and the others. How do you learn from other partners? What are they doing uniquely? We know COVID has hit us a lot, but what are youth doing? We used to be, as the FAO, supporting youth awards, innovations. How can we also look at those avenues of supporting youth and appreciate those who have innovatively sustained promoting food security? So I think the ideas we need to bring forth here to appreciate the youth and in the mapping to show that they're inclusive, as the teams have mentioned, but also having these awards to appreciate those ones whom people can learn from. I think this is a way, but revisiting that forum, I think it is long overdue. We need to see how do we bring all partners through this forum and quarterly learn from each other and share best practices on what they are doing on promoting food security and having the youth as the front of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Philip, and I just have one key issue that I feel hasn't come out very well. You know, when we talk about this strategy, we are looking at the key thing there is employment in agriculture. But I have not seen the definition of employment. I mean, for years, we've been saying agriculture employs majority of Ugandans, okay? But what employment are we talking about? We need to move from employment to employment that is decent, is dignified and fulfilling. And we need to define this. Just like the way you see the World Bank will define middle income as someone who earns this, okay? It would be very important for us to define what we mean by decent employment for young people. They need to get fulfillment from this employment. They need to be able to achieve the things that they aspire from. And it would really be very important that we sing this all the time in the definition of the goal, that we have this. If we're talking about a young person earning a given amount from agriculture in a given period of time, we should define that, and it should, you know, reflect, you know, the decency in the employment, the ability for them to fulfill and achieve their dreams. Yeah.
Yeah, thank.
Yes. Yes, it is missing the microphone. So colleagues on the line, we have an ICT person. Please, you let us know if someone has raised their hand so that we intervene. So we'll give an opportunity if there is someone online. But we wanted to mention that it's an opportunity for us to even begin thinking about the reporting. Apart from monitoring, the coordination aspect, like in every year, we should have a report on how the strategy has been implemented. And by the way, let me tell you, partners here have resources to put in that. I can assure you, if each one of us contributed a small percentage of the money, even if you support your own report, you say, for me, I'm going to support inclusion of what I've done in the report. Does that need even money? We just have a framework of reporting. The Ministry of Gender shares it with everyone to input what we have achieved within the framework of the strategy. And then we just have one person to organize like a retreat to validate what people have put. And we review meeting. This is simple. And then once in a while we report. We say, this is what government, in terms of Uganda, stakeholders have achieved during the implementation of last year. We have created these jobs. The income of youth has changed. This is where the gaps are. And people will say Uganda is doing something real. Otherwise, let's not keep the strategy the way we kept. I pray that this time, and we are going to this time we are going to be serious in terms of the contacts. Madam Friday, we are going to be very serious with the stakeholders. We have the contacts of people who are here. We committed the other time that we are going to now monitor, coordinate, and report. I was informed by Madam Kon that today we are going to form another technical working group, actually to refine the other one, so that we begin planning for the new strategy. She will be guiding us on what is happening. If you are not committed to reporting, to monitoring, to coordinating, then you don't put your name. You say, by the way, for us, we are not cooperative. We don't want to coordinate with anyone. We want to do our things and hide them. So you keep that. But if we want to coordinate and report, it's a high time that we do that. So the forum that was indicated, let's begin discussing. The ministry is here, and when we see what we can do. But otherwise, I need to invite the colleagues to give their submissions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Edward. My name is Tony Nsima, and my comment is about the regard of the enterprise surveyed. We would wish to know if those enterprises were legally registered or not. because it's from an enterprise legal register that can attract funding, that in the future it can develop into a prosperous business so that it can provide decent work. And otherwise, if it remains unregistered, it remains solo proprietorship, and in the long run, we will not be able to achieve what we intend to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't worry about the accent. So, but what he was trying to mean, my brother, is that I think that's what we are promoting. If we are to promote decent jobs, you see, indecent jobs tend to hide behind unregistered organizations, companies, that's where people do funny stuff. Once someone is not registered, not formalized, they use that opportunity to do whatever they want to do in terms of suppressing the young people, their rights, to have a good pay, to have contracts, to have all that. In most cases, and it's because most of our entrepreneurs are informal. And you don't, and this is actually why my brother from Plan International, why we're advocating for formalization of businesses, but more importantly, you cannot give a tax holiday to an informal arrangement. So that's why we say once we formalize, we support these people to be formalized, then they can also have these benefits. By the way, as we push young people to formalize business, because that's one of the challenges they run away from formalizing. They think when they're going to formalize, they will be taxed. The moment you register a company, you have a bank account. URA is here. That's what they tell us. And they begin taxing us. Sometimes we have not made money. Young people are still struggling. Register as a company, it is doing one or two things, then the taxes come in. The next time they collapse. So what we are trying to say is that we support young people to formalize, but also advocate so that we have tax holidays and incentives so that people can be motivated to engage in agriculture. And that's why it was one of the activities but that's a very important point. So another one, if you have colleagues who want to, before we invite Apple, want to give an opportunity to everyone so that you don't say when we are revising the strategy, we are not considered. Go.
Okay, thank you so much, team. I am enjoying the discussion. I want to also put a disclaimer. I haven't read the national strategy, so just in case I mention anything that is already there. I've noticed, okay, from what has been presented, yes, it is true. I think most of us are doing a lot, but nobody seems to know what we are doing. So joint efforts are required for this, especially for the platform that brings all of us together. So some of us, I will speak for the organization that I work for. I work for GOAL, and we currently have a huge, an ambitious target of reaching 300,000 young people, getting them into work, and in agriculture specifically. And maybe what I need to mention is that the categories that we are maybe battling with, the young people with disabilities, there's also another category of refugees that we haven't yet also talked about. I don't know whether that's also catered for, but it is also there. So we have come up with specific strategies to those and specific areas which we are happy to share with the team of specific strategies to target those young people in getting them into work as far as agriculture is concerned. But the other thing that I wanted to ask is whether we, in our strategy, because for us we work on an MSD approach, that market systems development approach, and we work with the private sector. So I'm not sure whether there are deliberate efforts to engage the private sector within the strategy. So I think that is it for now. But also we have, for us, we've tried putting some efforts of formalizing with the Ministry of Gender, the Ministry of Agriculture. We are trying to come up with an MOU. We work with Mr. Ogwang from Agriculture. We work with Mr. Mondo from the other side. And so I think it will also be good. I also saw good enough that you've reduced the indicators from 74 to 23. I took note of that. So we also, at this point, we don't even know which indicator to contribute to. We would report to. So maybe going forward, if we can align things, then we are happy also to report, because we have these interventions happening, things are happening. From the goal side at district level, we always have our district coordination meetings. So all the districts where we are, on a quarterly basis. We monitor, we do joint monitoring with also the different stakeholders at district level. So I think, and then also district coordination meetings to just report to them what is happening at that level. But I think it would also be key for us as stakeholders to do that at national level.
Thank you. I think yours wasn't a question. You are trying to say that actually it is important and we coordinate and you have information actually that you can provide in terms of reporting. So you have a real question. The question is to me or to another person? Anyone?
I don't care whoever answers.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, my name is James Brian Twatwa. I work with Incredible Youth International. I have been in existence since 2005. I just recently got a notification that I'm supposed to attend this wonderful workshop. I have attended millions of workshops and everything seems perfect. When we come here, we eat, very good presentations. When you get to the action point, it's hard to find the actual people that you are seated with in the workshop. When you go to the ministry, it's almost impossible to find a person that you are going to work with directly. They are busy in meetings, they are out of the country. So my questions are very simple. One, how can we develop a strategy that is easily communicatable to a young person on a grassroots? Because whatever is happening in this meeting today is wonderful technical words that you're working with. I would like to understand that, okay, this is how we ask for proposals. If you have an idea that is going to support a young person, this is when every year on March, this is when we ask, okay, there is this funding of 1 billion, of 20 billion, please bring your proposals and the number of youth you're going to work with. Where do you get the seeds? We get the seeds, we plant them, and they die. How do you retain the water in the ground? How do you prepare the soil? Like all those different things. After planting, where do you market your goods and products? To me, I would be very, very, very impressed and encouraged because I have a huge organizations. I'm working with young people in Namayingo, in Kabembe. We have tried these things of agriculture, and it seems that young people get frustrated and even run out before the workshops, before the trainings. You bring people to train, they don't know what they are doing. They got information from the internet and they come and try to train young people. So I'm even wondering, the people that have 30 districts, how do you do it to monitor and conduct trainings in 30 districts? How are you able to measure the capacity of your contribution and impact? I have a whole team from Estonia. They want to buy several groceries from Uganda, but it's hard to get these things and consistently have them they want to sign a 5-year contract. It's impossible to find a farmer. If there is one here, I would be grateful to work with that will tell me that I can supply Estonia with avocado with 1 ton every week for the next 5 years. These are the actual questions that I want answers to, as opposed to this wonderful conversation and technical words. Thank you so much.
He needs a big round of applause. Can we clap for him? And by the way, he's not talking to you. He's not asking you this question. He's saying, how do we do it? Including himself, isn't it? Yes. Don't worry that he's posing this any question, because you may think he's asking one of us to answer. He's only worried that we have not been meeting to have this open discussion. So without taking a lot of time, he's saying, how do we make sure that we put in place a strategy that communicates to the youth on the ground? And this is what the youth said, that you cannot do anything without the what? The youth. That's why the youth are here. And that's why we have people like him in this meeting. So I'm very sure that moving forward, my brother, the minister is here, Minister of Agriculture is here, the Minister of Gender is here. We are going to revise this strategy. It's an opportunity now for you and me and any other person who has that feeling that something is lacking to sit together and we shape our country. Because this is our country. You are my brother, I'm your brother. Whatever we do will impact my brother and it will impact your brother. So let's do it together. So, Mr. Aporo, apologies, but we had to give an opportunity to these stakeholders who had this pain. We only have Madam Connie to give a comment, and then you present. Because the discussion is interesting, only that we are delaying. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm actually very happy with the concerns that are coming up. I want to respond to two of your concerns. Actually, your concerns are both spot on. You are coming at the right time. I'll ensure you are in our technical working group. I'll just make sure you are there. You brought in one beautiful issues of, is it the production of a story or whatever it is? You know, many times we want to produce before we have gotten even the market. You don't know where you're going to sell. You have produced, then you come and you start looking for a market. That is not how it's supposed to be. We need to have the market before we start the production, so that when we produce, you know where you're taking the produce. Let me tell you, we have young people who are very active. If you move around the country, we have done it several times, you find real youth, real human beings, boys and girls, who are really active in agriculture activity. And these are the people we always talk about. I'm happy you have a company. I'll be very happy that your company works with the ministry, so that we see how to make our way ahead. That's why we are here today. And before close of business today, we are going to ensure that we put in place a technical working group. That technical working group is coming up with a working strategy. What you want, what every one of us here want to see. We don't dictate. The team puts it in place, and you have to ensure that we implement it. We don't want to have a document that will sit there and nobody does anything about it. No. I told you that we developed this strategy, which has just ended. We implemented. It did not just sit there. It didn't. A number of partners made use of this document, and they really appreciated it. They did. Up to now, we have partners who have identified areas for work and say, for us, we can implement these areas. And that brings me to what my sister brought out. You are from Goal. Thank you very much for what you have. At the beginning, I said we are not coordinated in our activities, and that is real bad manners. We must coordinate. You cannot come with your own strategy, do your own things. This one comes with their own, they do what they want. This young man here earlier on said we were trained on the same thing. The next week they were called for the same training. Lack of coordination. I told you that is how we come on board. That is why the government needs to be on board to coordinate our respective activity. You may think you're a big organization, but that's not how it works. The government is still bigger than you. The government has allowed you here for a reason. And that is why we are coming on board to try and see how we can improve areas where we are probably not done well before. There is always the beginning somewhere, and we have started. So you come and work with us as you are like that. You've done this, you've done that. Can we change that? Because it is you and me who can make the change that we are talking about today. If we want these documents implemented, who is supposed to implement it for us? Why do we complain? Why do we point a finger? The government does not develop its strategy, its policies, and then goes out to implement it by themselves. These documents that have been produced by the government is for all of us who are here. They provide guidance. And who implements the guidance? You and me. But you fail, and then you turn it around and you say the government has failed. The government did not fail. You failed yourself. Can we change that now? Can we start it here? Can the youth strategy, which we're beginning to develop now, make a difference in what we are doing? And let us stop saying we only talk. Who talks? You are talking. Let us turn that talking into action. Let us start implementing that. The young people are there and they're willing to work. We continue confusing them left, right, central. Let's stop the confusion. Let us have one strategy in this country. One, not two, one. One strategy for young people, you know, for the youth employment in agriculture. One strategy in the whole of Uganda. One. Then pick your area of operation. Say, for us, we can operate in this area. For us, we are good in here. Do what you are good at. And let me tell you, at the end of the day, you are recognized in the national agenda. When they read those things, you are not there. But you have spent your money. Why are you spending your money and you are not recognized? Why? Let us stop it. Let us not say, me, I'm a big organization, I can do it alone. No, you can't. You can continue spending your money. Thank you very much. But we shall not appreciate you. It is not written anywhere. Your money is gone and it is wasted. Thank you very much. They read all those achievements. You are nowhere to be seen. You can say, yes, we did a lot. Who knows it? Where is it? Can we work together? Can we start it here? Can we start it now? Can we start it today? Can we change that? And nobody complains. Because the complaint, we are the ones complaining. Let's do what we believe is doable. That strategy which we're beginning to develop here will be implemented. We will implement them. Then at the end of the day, we'll come back here and sit and say, yes, we didn't know this was going to be done, but now we have seen it is done. So let's start changing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam. Now, I think we can't add on because we need to give an opportunity to Apollo. And our main objective of today's meeting is to validate the action plan, but also have an opportunity to listen to the database, the ICT facility database, the online database that is going to be presented by NSYEA. So we don't want to divert from the main objective because formulation or revision of the strategy will come at the end in terms of planning the next steps. But let's now focus our discussion on the action plan and the database. So over to you, Mr. Sekawa.
Thank you very much. The talk here is about the new action plan the new strategy. Of course, the new strategy will come with a new action plan. So we are really at the tail end of the old strategic plan. But again, we're trying to see how that can be closed properly, picking the right information. And with your inputs, perhaps the M&E framework and the priority areas and actions may perhaps be reworked or could include a few things that may be missing. Asking about people with disabilities, can we check and see if that is there? Yes, and on that note also, the gentleman has inquiring about actions. We are here also to coordinate ourselves. When we have an opportunity to gather like this, it is also another way to know who is doing what and what can I do with the other party. So I think it's also a good forum to share that. My name again is Apollo Segawa. I'm Executive Director at CHURAD. We are in the business of developing enterprises along the agricultural value chains. We offer our young people factories where they can start their production journey and trade. From coffee, horticulture, beverages, packaging, we offer all that. And it's good you could be able to share that information. He's looking at exporting avocados and all that. We aggregate farmers who can provide them crop. So it's good that he came. And you should know that in this room it's full of action people. Action people who are actually doing something on the ground. It's a matter of mentioning what do you want to do. I'm sure you'll get 100 answers on who can want to work with you, depending on the line of action. So yes, without further ado, let's run through the 5 strategic areas that we had in the strategic plan, and that form our action plan, and the 22 priority action areas that we intend to track. And those organizations that we feel should be leading this activity. And when we run through these organizations, if you feel that your organization needs to be mentioned or added because of the impact you are doing in that area, this is the right space and time to do that. As Edward indicated, it's a lot of tables that are quite hard to present in a slide format. So you may have to bear with me. So the first strategy in the strategic plan that forms our action plan, informs our action plan, is to strengthen the policy and legal framework So we've had a discussion about the 14 and 17-year-olds, and I'm happy to hear that a lot has been done. We have policies in place that handle that, and where we have the tracking of what has happened, perhaps actually we have this in green, because we know over the last 5 years we have a new policy out and all that. So we are recognizing the work that has been done in tracking what has happened between 2017 and 2020. And the colors that Edward was presenting allude to your efforts on what has happened to some of these actions. One thing that I think may be lacking is we may have recognized these 14 and 17-year-olds, but I think they still can't sign legal contracts. I may be wrong, because if you're going to offer a decent job to this young person and he can't sign a contract, normally legal decent work starts with a contract. So we probably still have a legal lacuna there on how to get that out of the system. So we may need again to push and see that we can somehow get this very young age group be able to sign something that can be legally binding. A lot of employees get to abuse that. 1.12, and again, this the thematic areas have a lot of actions under them. So we are starting with 1.1 to strengthen the policy and legal framework, and the various key priority areas that we have under these are the ones that I'm running through quickly. Next one was promote awareness initiatives about youth enabling laws, procedures, rights, program, and obligations. Yes, we probably now know that it is a policy around the 14, 17-year-olds, but the awareness of this, probably a lot of us were not aware that that's in place, and we felt that's a priority action that should be covered. Support the dissemination of the NSYEA and youth programs. A number of you have the copy, a whole lot of you don't. I may also share that this is an area we've tried to do very well, and there's actually a copy on the FAO website. You'll be able to download it as soon as you can. Identify, review, and harmonize laws, policies, and strategies relating to youth in agriculture. And we feel MyIF should be leading this as also the last activity to harmonize these laws, as I've just mentioned. Can we ensure that actually our very young people can sign a legal document? Support monitoring and enforcement of regulations pertaining to agricultural services, especially inputs. MyIF should absolutely be leading this, but I know a whole lot of us may be doing something in that area. So if you think you could add something there, we are happy to add you on the lead organization that should be working with that, so that we don't have seeds that don't germinate and affecting our farmers. 1.16, building capacity of MyIF to mainstream youth issues in their programs and partnerships, especially for the 14 and 17-year-olds. Again, MyIF and FAO at the forefront of that. How do we ensure that most programs we come across already start at 18? And how do we ensure that programs come out and can look at the young people? So that is a priority action area we identified in this action plan. 0.17, support improvement of the M&E system for youth interventions. That is a core area of our M&E framework. How do we get to know who is doing what, where, when, and how do we get to strategize so that our young people don't get an overload of business trainings? You train them today, Gold trains another day, Enterprise Uganda goes in again, then Chirad comes with this same training. I think we got to find a proper coordinating mechanism to ensure we can spend our money better so we can deliver better to our young people. Lobby for provision of youth agribusiness tax incentives. Yes, as Edward rightly said, we are really for the youth. I don't say we don't care about others, but this is a strategy for the young people, so we are advocating for them. And I may add, in Kenya, we have a procurement regulation that offers 30% of contracts to young people. So why can't we try to advocate for that here? So it's possible. I think every older person has a young person behind him or her. So if we have incentives and things in place that support that young person, I'm sure the mothers and fathers who are parents to these young people will be extremely happy, even if they may feel excluded. Lobby for increased rural electrification to spur processing at lower costs. And we feel the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development should be leading that activity. Revitalize the National Agriculture Youth Forum. Members, I think this is very critical, especially the young people in the room. You should advocate for this, and I'm sure FAO, MAIF, and all of us will be very supportive. We always want to reach out to young people, and if there's a forum where you can reach them, I think it could work out extremely well. Strategy 1.2, enhance land access and control by the youth. This is a tough one, but I may say yes, it was part of the strategy that we want to track. If we feel we can't do anything, perhaps in the new strategy we could drop it altogether. But it's very critical to see how do our young people access land. And during the review, we felt that 1.21 we could possibly that was discontinued because we didn't think there's any headway we can make along those lines or establishing a youth land fund. I think it's something we felt a little too heavy for us to push. But the second action to build the capacity of households, communities, community networks to promote youth ownership and utilization of public and private land. I think this is something we can do. We know from the districts to the research centers, there's a lot of land that's unutilized. If there's a way we can push and ensure that this land can be accessed by young people, so that instead of paying the 200,000 per acre or 150 to lease this land, we've come up with a framework where our young people in these different regions can actually access this land at a much lower cost or no cost at all, because if they're going to produce something that adds value to the country, perhaps it's government land. I think that could be a welcome action. So for all programs here, I think this is something you could probably look to include in your next project. And I think FAO and other development partners will look at it positively. Strategy 1.3, strengthen family and community involvement in youth agriculture programs, projects to enhance ownership and sustainability. The first action to educate the youth on the values of family and community structures. Without, like I say, I mean, we all know charity begins at home, and all education and focus begins from that point. So if you can get the family involving the young people in the agriculture enterprise and ensuring that the children in these households don't look at agriculture as something dirty, as something they can't do. It is something that could be good to enhance the youth employment in agriculture. They will ensure that look at agriculture as an option to actually have decent work. We felt that the gender ministry could lead with this, but a lot of other organizations, World Vision, CARE, perhaps plan work in this area and could deliver something along that action plan. Support youth, parents, and community participation in agriculture programs, projects, design, implementation, and monitoring. Again, we felt gender could lead with this aspect, but we have organization and ABI, One Acre Fund, perhaps plan, World Vision again, having a good impact along that action. Support the establishment, nurturing, and implementation of mentorship programs with special emphasis on proximity and skills for the 14 and 17-year-olds. Again, we feel that this age group is mainly for the young people who are still at school. How do we have organization to support? Like Chura, Yuri, the gender ministry again now may not lead this, but could play a role. We have school farms and all that. Again, this is a way of nurturing the next farmer, and we feel it's an action again that can sustain the delivery of decent jobs in agriculture for our young people. Support initiatives that create mindset change among the youth and communities to invest in agriculture as a viable venture. OPM with these programs and Ms. of Gender and MyIF, again, we feel they are lead entities in this, but a lot of our organizations also do work along that line, and we want to hear from you and document you and ensure you can share your deliverables in delivering that activity. Strategy 1.4, increase access to agriculture finance. And the first activity under this is sensitize the youth and relevant financial institutions regarding available financial products to establish formal links with these young people who may need them. Basically, all the banks say we have packages for young people, but sensitizing and ensuring the youth actually know about this is something that is critical, that can be helpful. And we feel the Minister of Finance and the Uganda Bankers Association. Do we have any bankers here today? Anyone from the financial institution? I wonder if NSYEA also now kind of works in that space. I saw Gerard here, but I think he stepped out. Yes, so we need to ensure the youth know, because they'll always ask you, where do we get this money? And they don't know about these programs. 1.42, advocate for more youth-friendly financial products, working in financial institutions. Yes, the products are there. The youth always complain that they are not friendly. When they reach there, they ask them for titles and all that. So everyone claims there's money, but accessing that money is sometimes impossible for these young people. So how can we advocate for proper, real, youth-friendly financial products? So we have organizations like Financial Sector Deepening Uganda, Uganda Agribusiness Alliance, and all that, trying to support this. But we felt that, of course, the Finance Ministry and FSD would probably lead this action. Lobby government to establish an innovation incubation fund for young people. This is critical. We're talking about finance for young people who don't have land titles, who don't have any kind of collateral. Why shouldn't we have a youth innovation and incubation fund for our young people? I think this is something that is achievable. And the Incubators Alliance, that is Uganda Incubator Alliance, us incubators like Churad and others, I think we can, and UAA, we can advocate for this kind of fund to ensure that young people starting out in agriculture can access some kind of support for that. Probably we can influence the PDM to ensure we have a portion that is earmarked for young people. Perhaps it's there, that would be good, but that's the kind of thinking we will be looking at, to have some money that's for young people. Support the establishment and capacity building of youth farmer groups, service and credit cooperatives, VSLAs. Again, we're talking finance, and here we felt like the MFC could have a lead, but with all the agencies that support savings by young people, or farmer cooperatives that have young people with them, could take a lead. And all these other institutions that are involved with finance could play a role. So special microfinance for young people, we felt that is not extremely relevant, because microfinance schemes actually don't really care if it's a young person or an older person coming for the money. So we felt that that one, it's not something we can really push to read to what we want to deliver. Strategy 1.5, increase access and use of ICT for youth in agriculture. And NSYEA and others, Famonella, are taking a lead on this. And of course, Minister of Information and Communication Technology, we think it should be leading this. We're talking agriculture, but I always think we need these members around with us. Sensitizing and training youth in using ICT in agriculture. Again, the ministry should take lead. Accelerator and incubators should offer supportive role. Innovation Village, UNDP, Stambik Accelerator. Anyone trying to do any work around youth agro ICT should help us in delivering this strategy, this action of this part of the strategy, and share with us the results of that. Undertaking research and support dissemination of offline tools that are usable without the internet. Again, the ministry should take lead of this part. Again, we have young people developing applications that work with our capability and could again help in ensuring that no one is left behind. Because as we know, not every young person can afford that smartphone, and we should always try to have them involved. 1.6, increasing access to markets. Understand I had goal or the activity has a market linkage approach, and I wonder if this strategy covers or reads to ensure you have private sector, because access to markets is really must involve private sector. So this action, this strategy probably covers that part that you alluded to. Support the youth in sustainable production of high quality value, quantity and safe agri products. Again, the incubator network, Churad and others, we are leading to ensure that high quality value, quality and safe products are produced and available to market. Support agro-processing and post-service handling infrastructure. Again, the incubators are taking a lead on this. We provide infrastructure, we provide park houses, and backward farmer linkages to ensure that agro-processing happens that is led by our young people. Organize youth into formal and informal groups. We focus on rural youth aged. Again, the 14, 17-year-olds. We hope that new programming comes out to include that category. I wonder if PDM actually has that covered. We'll probably hear from someone. Support and promote initiatives in market linkages, such as capacity for storage, contract negotiation, and market analysis. I think we should be having goal as part of the entities here that ensure that this aspect is delivered. Strategy 7, support youth in agriculture mechanization. Youth to acquire skills on operating, maintaining, and fabricating agriculture tools. A while back, we had a youth challenge, and the overall winner is actually turning tractors, diesel tractors, into electric tractors. It's a young person. I think this is the kind of action we were trying to look at. How can our young people actually help in mechanization? Sometime, I mean, instead of only riding border borders, can they drive a combined harvester or a normal tractor? So this is also an initiative, I mean, a strategic action that we as implementing partners can take on and ensure we deliver. We have MyIF leading this with NADS and OWC right now, and perhaps PDM will also have a role to play here. Establish youth agro-machinery hire and leasing pilot schemes. We have now youth organizations like AgriShare, like AgriShare, and a few others that are actually involved in trying to ensure that agro-machinery can be shared around and used. So I think we are having some headway in delivering that action. So it's encouraging that, yes, as we close out the 5-year strategy, we are seeing real progress. Now the issue is about documenting it and everyone sharing what they have done using the ICT tool that will be shared by Subuco, but also probably sharing reports, all in a framework that MyIF will be managing and ensuring that we can share this kind of information. Thematic area number 2, support youth-oriented agriculture extension. This has everything to do with extension And for all the activities under this priority area, you have MyIF leading. And I'm happy we have Connie here. She definitely must have a lot to share as far as the delivery of this action is concerned. From conducting capacity building for young people to be able to offer these extension services, reviewing adapting guidelines, promotion activities, and scoping studies to see how the effectiveness of these extension services. Thematic area number 3, improve youth education and learning. For all the actions here, we have the Minister of Education leading, and among the actions is the advocating for support and review of the education curriculum. There was talk about dropping agriculture. I hope actually it wasn't dropped. I hope someone will share with us. We need to have our agriculture. Actually, when I think a lot of us as parents, we have young people in senior too. When you look at the subjects, you want to put agriculture and you struggle where to put it. Because they made the subjects very few and it's not among the priority subjects. So what do you drop? It is becoming very, very difficult. So I think we have a lot of work to do in ensuring that that can be rejigged, either increase the number of subjects, but we must have agriculture as a priority subject. I don't know who developed the new curriculum and left that out, but it is something all of us need to be looking at, and I hope MyIF, our mother ministry, we need agriculture back as a key subject. So again, the strategy looked at this and looked at that as a key strategic action. Support and promote youth agriculture clubs and camps. All of us in our respective organization, this is something we need to be delivering on, or we are delivering on, hopefully. National agriculture competitions. I haven't had many of these. I've had a few, but I think we need to do a little more. The national agriculture competitions could really deliver something. I wish we could deliver more on that action. Promote practical school farming systems. Most big schools used to have school farms. I don't know how many still have them and running. Support life skills development, and HIV prevention and mitigation. We can't run away from that. It's agriculture, but still has everything to do with health. As I normally, some young person asked me, these people are building roads. Why are they putting these HIV signs? So you could see a big disconnect between a road being built and health. I think all of us know better. Health is cuts across. Nothing can be delivered without health. Yes, so moving on to strategy 3.2 and the main theme, strategic theme number 3, promoting agricultural vocational training, partner with MOS and ensure vocational institutions offer formal and informal short courses and for youth, especially and inclusive of the very young ones, to ensure that we have more vocational training in agriculture. Strengthen the capacity of ZADIs to offer relevant. ZADIs, I wonder, maybe we may have to refine this. I think offering capacity or trainings is not one of their mandates. I've not heard about a ZADI offering any trainings and all that. So I don't know, we'll get clarity on that, but we had this as a strategic action. How do we get ZADIs to actually offer more technical trainings to young people? So with MyIF leading on that activity. Thematic area number 4, we're about to reach the end. Don't get bored yet. So thematic area number 4, support youth entrepreneurship. This is a big one for most of us. And among the actions, key strategies, promote and support youth agriculture entrepreneurs as incentives for job creation and income generation. Action 1, support youth agriculture entrepreneurs to access business incubation services. We all aware, and I hope know, the impact of the business incubation services that are also ready to help our member here in providing the avocados to Estonia. We have the farmer networks. We have the park houses. Just bring the market. Don't worry. We'll have you sorted. So we also have building capacity for the youth to write viable agricultural proposals and business plans for sourcing funds. How do we ensure that these young people can actually write a simple concept proposal to ensure that they can get this finance? There's a lot of finance for young people. A whole lot of them don't know, can't write these concepts. And of course, some of them are even illiterate. How do we help? The incubators can play a role, but organization, all support organizations for young people can help. When there's a call from Tony Lumelu, how can Go support a young person from Zombo to actually put something down and send it to Tony Lumelu Foundation? Big prize, $5,000. But I think all organizations here, we have a role to play to build that capacity, to write that little proposal to get some funding. Work with Minister of Education on provision of basic functional literacy and numeric skills. Again, I'm alluding to that. You can't do it as an organization. Can we rope in the ministry as we're offering these many trainings? I had very few literacy trainings going on. When we go in to do business trainings, we don't really care who can write or read. I think that's a component we need to add. Let's add that to the trainings. You go in a region and say, anyone who can't read and write, let's do this. Do 5, 10, 20 days. Perhaps by the time they leave, they can write their name, they can, you know. So I think that's an area as organization that we need to be looking at. The final thematic area, number 5, adaptation to and mitigation of agribusiness risks and uncertainties. Risk management, as you see, climate change. That's why we're moving from agribusiness to agri-food systems. He talked about safety. We have issues around nutrition. Most importantly, now we have the climate aspect. So we are moving from looking just at value chain nodes and the value chain to agri-food systems because you can't do any value chain if you are getting impacted by climate change and can't, you don't have any measures to mitigate that. So that's the higher level we're looking at, and this thematic area was alluding to this. Perhaps we upload FAO and MAIF for thinking ahead, because this concept of agri-food systems, I think, is just 3 years old. 2017, the stakeholders were already thinking ahead to include climate resilience in a strategy of this type. So among the activities, support development and promote uptake of best practices, innovation technologies relevant to addressing agribusiness risk and uncertainties, intervention towards effective and efficient dissemination on weather patterns. We are all, I think, being affected by this. One time they say, oh, we are going to have excess rains. Next thing, you hardly have enough to have a crop of maize. So we still have a challenge, even with our centers that are supposed to distribute this knowledge. No one told us that last season is going to be 1 month in Central. But the message was, we may have excess rains in Central region. So we are all thinking, today this season is going to be a bumper one. We hardly had enough rains in Central region. And we are watching the space for this second season because, again, it looks very erratic, I may say. So again, so dissemination of the right and correct weather information, promoting agriculture insurance. It mitigates risks for banks, and all these funding institutions. You give someone money, at least you are sure 80% will be back. So I think it's something we need to promote, and it's an action under this. Rapid response, we discontinue that for now because probably it's beyond our scope looking at young people. 5.2, investment of occupational health and safety. This again, very critical. Now that we are going to agri-food system, the safety is critical. From research actions to sensitization actions, and see how we can provide protective gear for young people, especially that are looking after our crops. That is our action plan for the existing strategy. And I'd very much loved to have the robust discussion when we've had all this. But I think we still have energy to continue. Perhaps after lunch, or I don't know if we're going to have any input at this time. Edward, I want to hand over to tell us if you think we can have some comments now, or you are sending everyone to lunch and they come in with new energy. Thank you.
Very much. A big round of applause. He's called the Mr. Segawa Apple. And if for those who don't know Churad, we talk about we've been talking about impact. Our colleague, our friend, you forgive me, I've not yet programmed your name, but what I'm trying to mean is that these stakeholders you see here are not kwara stakeholders, these people who come and talk. These are people who are here to look for, to actually give solutions to problems. These are not people for dialogues, they meet, talk, then they have a report and publish and they account. These are not the type. When you see Churad, you see these organizations which are here. And if you want to be part of this arrangement, it is a very good opportunity for you. So for those who have just come today, you are in a group that is the right group that is causing impact. So let's move. It's a good beginning. Before we go for lunch, I just wanted to take you back to the title of this table and to mention to you, before you give your suggestions, to reflect on some of the aspects that Mr. Segawa has been talking about. I just wanted to mention that when the assessment was done, we actually indicated whether there's some achievement, there's need for improvement, there's nothing has been done. That's why you see the red. So I want to read this statement before I allow colleagues to give submissions on the rationale for the update of the regional strategy for youth employment in agriculture framework. So I want to read this paragraph. We read it together. I'm going to read it. Then you reflect on it, because we don't need to just present and then we move. The key goal of the NSYEA was to increase, the NSYEA is the national strategy, was to increase and sustain youth employment in agriculture at various levels of the value chain. The action plan for the period of 2022-2023 builds on the knowledge generated through the baseline mapping exercise that was conducted in 2020. So the information that was gathered, the assessment which we are talking about, this red, yellow, and what, was based on that baseline mapping. And it was done in 2020. By acknowledging the progress reached so far, the action plan indicates the key actions that need to be prioritized to achieve the national strategy goals and objectives within the original NSYEA time frame of 2018-2022. So from because it was launched in 2017, so from 2018 to 2022, what was planned to be achieved within that time frame, the assessment was around what was achieved in that time frame. And now we are saying, with a bridging year of 2023 and the thematic areas of the strategy, meaning that as we go into a transition of the new strategy, because we need to understand this, that we implemented the strategy from 2018, because 2017 it was the launch. So we assume that people started implementing 2028 until 2022. Now, then we did a mapping and we got some information about the achievement, the progress. Some were red, green, yellow. So we have a status, a tentative understanding of what is happening. And based on that, we can now say that these areas which are in red need more prioritization in terms of moving forward. So as we reflect, colleagues, as we reflect on the new strategy, which is not the key, the major objective of this discussion is not to discuss the formulation of the new strategy, but to look at what was done. Was this assessment, okay? Is the action plan giving us a picture of what is happening? Because for you can know that when we talk about the 14 to 17, they have not been catered for. Is it true? Because each one of us has the action plan, and you know those yellows and the red and all that. It is from a score of 1 up to 4. 1 up to 4, if you read the strategy, the action plan very well. So they scored 1 to 4, and therefore you will see the red, the yellow, and green, and say, yeah, this is what this depicts the actual picture as an implementer. So I wanted to say that this prioritization is based on the evaluation of the impacts of the current interventions and programs, as well as the existing gaps. So the action plan intends to help both private sector, public and government partners to adequately plan, budget, and implement their respective youth initiatives until 2023. By aligning work plans and objectives to sustain youth employment in agriculture, the associated M&E framework at the end would help, you will see it, would help stakeholders in monitoring and then evaluating progress and results. The M&E framework builds on the regional M&E framework which was in the strategy and simplifies its long list of indicators to guarantee a more efficient and realistic M&E system. Data will continue to be disaggregated and monitored by sex and age. So in terms of this, what April was indicating is that we have the strategy, a thematic area, we have a strategy, then the priority actions. And the action, we have the area of intervention or action, and the organization, or the lead organization. And other organizations that are implementing, the implementing organization. So the question is, based on what has been presented as we go for lunch, if you go through the action plan, because what we didn't go through up here is we did not go into details of each of the strategy, the thematic area. For those who go to the action plan, each of the thematic area had how it was evaluated and how it was scored. I don't know whether Apple you have, yeah, if you can go to that so that we look at it. I want a summary. There is a summary of from the evaluation. The summary from the evaluation. Okay, so we evaluated each of the thematic area, and then we gave the performance. So the score, as I indicated, 1 is the low, that is why it's red, and then 4 x. Okay. So, but still you can see that this one is a synthesis of the overview of the entire assessment. You see, hey, it's not showing. So we are showing a different document. Sorry. He's the one sharing. Hey. No. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So what we are trying to show, forgive me, my brother. What we are trying to show, I was talking to myself. We have a summary of the assessment. So in terms of all the thematic areas in one table, so you can see that thematic area number 1, the strategies and activities, how they were assessed, those which performed and those which didn't perform very well. So you have a picture. The reason why we didn't want to go into this, each one of us has the action plan. So if you look at that table, table 3, it has a summary of the performance or the progress reached under each of the activities, on each of the activities under a thematic area. Thematic area number 1, those are the activities. This is the performance. You have thematic area number 2 like that until when you have all the 5 thematic areas. So this is a summary. This is what I wanted to say. So we based on that now, as we move forward, we need to base on that to say, as you reflect, you can say, according to this, the way it was assessed, for us, we have an organization, we are doing this. I think this was underscored. I think this one was over. You indicate that it performed, but the performance is not what? Is not all that good. You are giving it green. But from our understanding, this is supposed to be yellow. I know many people don't want to say yellow, but it's yellow. So what I'm trying to say is that try to look at the way the action plan, this assessment was done, and give your honest views, depending on what you think was done. And then the other aspect is in terms of the organization moving forward. We are looking at now a transition going into the, because we don't want to bore you into the semantics of indicators. When we go into that bores, what we want you is to just give you a perception, because it's a perception based on your experience. But more important, begin reflecting as we move forward towards the end. I don't know whether Madam Kony is still around. Is that as we move forward, we need to begin thinking, what should be our priority in terms of the new strategy? Shall we concentrate on green? Because if green means good performance, do we need to concentrate more in terms of those actions, or we need to look at those actions which were yellow and green? Now, if the assessment is not fair, listen to this because this is very important, Friday, this is very important. We are saying, if we give a wrong perception, a wrong assessment, and we say, this is red, this is green, there's good performance. Meaning that in the new strategy, we may not concentrate on it. We may think there was good performance, so in terms of prioritization, in terms of focus, we don't focus on it. Yet in the actual sense, it was because of our poor assessment. So that's why I'm saying, I'm emphasizing this. I'm sorry, because APRA has presented very well. But in terms of this, we need to look at the greens there and say, for sure, this one deserves a green, this one deserves a red, this one which you indicated the yellow actually needs to go to what? Red. And you give your justification, so that we don't give a wrong perception which will affect a new strategy. Because in the new strategy, the focus will look at where the reds were. We need to look at actions which need to be emphasized. I don't know whether I'm very clear. My English is in Runyankore, you'll forgive me. But the point has been taken. So basically we want to focus more on this action plan and really give it its best. And then after, we'll invite now someone who will develop the database to make a presentation. This is NSYEA. So we invite NSYEA to give a presentation. Then towards the end, we agree on the action areas. The action areas include the following, and I request my brother Bosco take notes on this. We need to know, in this transition, as we go into the new strategy, how is the data going to be collected? Because we need to know the status between now and the new strategy. What will be the status in terms of these indicators? And then, so that when we are having a new strategy, the action plan, the M&E framework guides the new strategy. It guides on how the new strategy is going to be in terms of prioritizing areas that need prioritization. Number two, how is the technical one group going to be constituted? This is actually, we already have a technical one group for those who have been participating in this technical one group. But if you are a member, you are a stakeholder, and you're a member of this technical, and you have not been active, and you think there is a stakeholder who is more relevant, and he has not come, you can even suggest, say, by the way, such and such organization has not come, but they are more relevant to this. Number two, you can say, I've not been participating in this like our brother, but I would want to participate in this. I would want to shape the new strategy. So since Madam Kony is back, as we come back, begin reflecting on these aspects. How is the monitoring going to be done? Can we organize ourselves? We have AVC, we have FA, we have GOR, we have all stakeholders. Can we think of developing a tool amongst ourselves? Maybe FA can facilitate one or two things, and with the support of Ministry of Gender, we have a tool and we share it with stakeholders. They feel it. And we have this information that was missing. And then we use that information when we are planning for the new strategy. Now, the technical group can support this. We can have a meeting with you can even suggest other organizations. Now, in the list which was indicated, which was shared by APRO, the organizations that we mentioned, but others were not what? Can you reflect even when we are going for lunch and say, such and such organization, we need to bring it on board. And can you give us their contacts? So that we want this to be serious, because what we are going to miss, if you give an evaluation on a given activity and you leave a stakeholder who would have impacted more on that activity, then you have less score at that activity. So we want to be realistic, at least a proxy, even if we are not exact, but whatever we give should approximate to the actual, so that we don't misrepresent the actual picture on the what? On the ground. We can sit here, 60 of us or 50, but when there is a key stakeholder who can cause an impact on one activity, but for us when we are here, we don't contribute to that activity. So the more stakeholders we identify and their contacts, and we bring them on board, the more accuracy or closer to the exact that we shall be. So that's what I wanted to add, to emphasize, Mr. Segawa, that this is very necessary and we need to think about that. So as we go for lunch, if you have any question, before, by the way, we go for lunch, there are members who came late. Before you go for lunch, you have to know each other. As you eat, you share, you say, Mr. Edward, how are you? How's it going? Is that fair? Let me give an opportunity to him, first of all, to ask, but also introduce himself. Then I come to our colleague.
Yes, my name is Stephen Kiria. I'm the Acting Assistant Commissioner, Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. I have also my colleague there with me, Stephen. He will be here for the rest of the day. Thank you again, Curad, and for that beautiful representation. But I must say I was upset that we work with Curad. We've been working with Curad. You know, MTIC has been working with Curad and FAO. And in all those action plans, I didn't see Ministry of Trade inside it. And yet we are actually the lead ministries in all of them. So that's what you should begin by actually correcting. Now, secondly, you know that we are under the midterm review process right now, where the government is actually prioritizing the priorities that already existed. So one thing, of course, that you must know that Uganda is an agriculture-led economy where SMEs are 80% of our service sector. And already, if you ask yourself, those 80%, who are they? They are the youth. So if you ask yourself what programs exist, there are really hundreds of programs that exist on the I don't know how many of you have visited the MTIC portal or at all know that an MTIC portal exists. Now, there are a lot of youth programs. My colleague here was asking what programs is MTIC actually doing. I mean, starting from the biosafety bill, we are trying to revise it. Going back to the national, there's the national entrepreneurship strategy, which is trying to be revitalized, and the SME strategy, because we realize that 80% of our 45 million population is youth. So now when we are building up this strategy, we actually did a workshop consultation meeting a few months ago, and 10 or 15 youth were there. So tomorrow, if you see a policy up on the SME strategy and start asking yourself, why weren't we involved? It's because none of you visited the website, or none of you, I don't know if you ever visited it. Okay, we have the SME forum, which we have created because we want to coordinate. Okay, we want to make sure that all these youth programs are coordinated. I mean, none of you, recently about, was it 2 weeks ago? I was with Dr. here. I was telling you guys that there is this COVID-19 relief fund which came about, where the government gives 100 billion, and then the participating financial institutions gave another 100 billion. That is 200 billion. And how much of that percentage has been accessed? 12% of that, of those funds, have been accessed. 86% is not accessed. That's awareness creation. So forums like this are important. We're also building up a database, which is trying to be built up here. That is also very important. We are also doing that in the system. So how do we harmonize all these programs, bring them together? Anyway, my colleague can talk to you much about that. I didn't want to say much. I just want to tell you that we begin the in terms of agriculture, the one thing that affects what affected the country is post-harvest losses. 80% of the produce that went, for example, sometime back in the grains, were sent back because of aflatoxins. And aflatoxins are very dangerous organisms. They are actually excrete for mycotoxins. I was trying to tell them about it. which means that, and to kill an aflatoxin, you can't even kill an aflatoxin because they are already dead living organisms. But normally, to kill them, you can, I mean, to destroy them, you have to destroy them